Dad, do you know why the army pays me? That was the question I asked my father, standing in his kitchen, looking him straight in the eye. He didn't answer. He just stared at me, confused, like I had asked him something in a foreign language. I wasn't asking because I wanted a lecture on military paychecks. I was asking because for 6 months, someone in that house had been quietly stealing from me. And I already knew who. What happened in the next 60 seconds would make my father go pale, make my stepmother's smile disappear forever, and finally bring out a truth our family had been hiding for years. If you've ever worked hard for something, only to have someone close to you try to take it without asking, stay until the end. Because this story isn't just about money. It's about respect, about family, and about what happens when someone pushes the wrong person too far. My name is officially known as Specialist Raina Cole, though at home, I was always just Ray. I joined the army at 19. Not for adventure, not for glory. I joined because I wanted to build something real for myself. No handouts, no shortcuts. Every dollar I earned through early mornings, long marches, and months away from everyone I loved. My mother passed when I was 16. My father, David, remarried 2 years later to a woman named Denise. I tried to give Denise a chance. I really did. I told myself that my father deserved happiness, and if she made him smile again, that was enough for me. But somewhere along the way, trying to get along turned into something else. Denise wasn't cruel to my face. She was worse. She was sweet in front of my dad and cold the moment he left the room. Small comments about how I acted like I was better than everyone because I served. Little jabs about how the army had changed me. I brushed it off. I was stationed 2 states away most of the year, so I didn't have to deal with her much. I sent money home instead, to help with my father's mortgage, since his hours at the plant had been cut. I trusted that money to go exactly where I sent it. I was wrong. It started small. A missed payment here. A temporary shortfall there. My father would call and awkwardly explain that the mortgage company had reached out about a late payment, even though I had transferred the money weeks before. At first, I blamed the bank. Systems make mistakes, right? Then I came home on leave in the spring, and something felt off the moment I stepped through the door. Denise had a brand new handbag, a new set of rings. She'd redone the guest bathroom, the one that was supposed to become my room whenever I was on leave. I asked my dad about it, casually over coffee. He shrugged and said Denise had found some extra money from a part-time job. I let it go. I didn't want to start a fight during my short time home, but something in my gut told me to check my bank statements more carefully. That night, after everyone went to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and went line by line through 6 months of transfers. What I found made my hands shake. Every single month, right after my deposit landed in the joint account I had set up for my father's household expenses, a withdrawal would appear 2 or 3 days later, labeled simply as cash. Not bills. Not groceries. Cash. Sometimes $300. Sometimes $500. Once, right before my father's birthday, an entire $800 disappeared in a single withdrawal. My father never touched that account without texting me first. That was our agreement, out of respect for the fact that this was money I earned overseas, away from my family, away from safety, which meant only one other person had access. Denise. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Not just anger, a quiet, controlled kind of fury. The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that plans. I thought about every deployment, every missed holiday, every night I stood watch far from home so that my father could have a warm house and a stable life. And she had been quietly draining it, dollar by dollar, right under his nose, using his trust in her as a shield. I didn't confront her that night. I needed proof, not suspicion. So, I did what I was trained to do. I built a case. Over the next 2 days, before my leave ended, I quietly gathered everything. Bank statements. Screenshots of the transfers. A printed timeline showing each withdrawal next to each deposit. I even asked the bank for a written transaction history, just to be sure nothing could be argued away later. I watched Denise closely, too. I noticed how she'd steer conversations away from finances whenever my father brought them up. I noticed how she always happened to be the one who checked the mail before he got home. I noticed the new items around the house that never had a clear explanation. The picture became painfully clear. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern, deliberate, repeated, and hidden behind a smile. Now, I could have exploded. I could have screamed at her the moment I found the truth. But that's not how I was trained to handle a threat. You don't charge in blind. You confirm your target, you plan your approach, and you strike when the moment gives you the clearest advantage. That moment came on my last night home, at dinner, with my father sitting right across from me, and Denise sitting right beside him, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. Dinner was quiet at first. My father asked about my next deployment. Denise asked if the army food was as bad as people said. I answered politely, waiting. Then I set my fork down, folded the printed bank statements, and slid them across the table toward my father. "Dad," I said, "do you know why the army pays me?" He blinked, confused. "For your service, Ray." "Why are you asking me that?" "Because that paycheck isn't a blank check for anyone to help themselves to," I said, keeping my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. Every dollar in that account came from months away from home. From nights I couldn't sleep because I was on duty. From holidays I missed with you. Denise's smile faltered for just a second. My father looked down at the papers, confusion turning slowly into understanding as he flipped through page after page of withdrawals he never approved. This can't be right," he said quietly. "It's right," I said. "Every withdrawal happened 2 to 3 days after my deposit. Every single time. And you and I both know I never touched that account without telling you first." The room went silent. My father's eyes moved from the papers to Denise. And that silence said more than any accusation ever could. Denise tried to laugh it off at first. "Ray, honey, you're being dramatic. Marriages share money. That's normal." "This isn't shared money," I said calmly. "This is money I earn risking my life, sent specifically to help Dad keep this house. Not for handbags. Not for rings. Not for a bathroom renovation I never approved." My father's voice, when it finally came, was low and shaking, not with anger at me, but with a heartbreak I hadn't heard from him since my mother passed. "Denise, is this true?" She didn't answer right away. And in our family, silence was always the loudest confession. Finally, she admitted it. She said she felt entitled to some of the money because she managed the household. She said she didn't think it was that big of a deal. She said I made enough that I wouldn't even notice. That's when I said the words that made my father go pale. "Tell your wife to stop counting my money. She doesn't have a right to a single dollar of it. If she crosses that line again, I won't be polite about it anymore. Do you understand?" I wasn't threatening violence. I was promising consequences, closed accounts, legal steps, and a truth that the entire family would finally see clearly. But the weight in my voice made it clear I meant every word. In the weeks that followed, things changed fast. I closed the shared account and opened a new one that only my father could access, one that required a code only the two of us knew. I set up automatic bill payments directly to the mortgage company, cutting out any possibility of cash withdrawals ever again. My father, for the first time in years, asked Denise hard questions. Questions about honesty, about respect, about what a partnership was supposed to look like. Their marriage didn't end that night, but it was never the same again. Trust, once broken like that, doesn't simply repair itself. It has to be rebuilt, brick by brick, and only if both people are willing to do the work. Denise tried to repair things with small gestures at first, offering to pay it back, suggesting we forget the whole thing. But actions carry more weight than words, and for the first time, my father saw her clearly, without the fog of comfort and convenience clouding his judgment. As for me, I didn't need an apology to feel like I'd won. I needed the truth to be seen. And it was. 6 months later, I came home on leave again. The house felt different, lighter, honest. My father had set healthier boundaries. Denise, to her credit, had started contributing her own income to household expenses instead of relying on mine. It wasn't perfect, but it was real progress, built on truth instead of quiet resentment. My father pulled me aside on my last night home and said something I'll never forget. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, Ray. I let comfort blind me to what was right in front of me. Thank you for protecting this family, even when it meant protecting it from someone inside it." I hugged him, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like the family I remembered before everything got complicated. 10. The moral. Here's what I learned from all of this. Love and trust should never be an excuse to look away from what's right. Family doesn't mean staying silent when something is wrong. It means having the courage to speak up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it might change everything. I didn't serve my country and sacrifice my time away from home just to let someone quietly take advantage of that sacrifice. And you shouldn't let anyone, family or not, take advantage of what you've worked hard to build either. If this story meant something to you, remember this. Standing up for yourself isn't about anger. It's about respect for your work, your sacrifice, and your worth. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. Sometimes, the truth is the only thing that can set a family free. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comments and stay tuned because there are more stories like this one coming soon.